money. Okay, for those of you who are joining us on YouTube, whilst the timer is on, we are asking the question, what does the name Clinton make you think of? What does the name Clinton make you think of? And so far, we've got some powerful answers in the house. The answers we have in the house so far are scandal, wife, Hillary, Bill, cards, husband, president, celebrity, and money. All right, so we've got 3 minutes more. Let us know in the chat what your answers are as well. All right, hopefully that is helpful, and let's go. All right, anyone else with anything else? Anyone else with anything else? Let us know. Charismatic, like that. Charismatic. All right, cool. We'll take two more if there's any more. We'll take two more. Clinton. When you hear the name Clinton, who said that? Sister Christina, power. All right, cool. That's good. One more. War. All right, cool. War. All right, good. This is good. All right, so we okay, which I think we had up there for scandal. Cheating. All right, so the question was, when you hear, what does the name Clinton make you think of? Okay, and these are the answers we've had so far: scandal, Bill, cheating, wife, Hillary, power, husband, cards, Christmas, president, celebrity, money, war. All right, some of these names hopefully you'll know. Let's go to another name. All right, when I say the name Bush, what comes to mind? TV. Okay, so war again, you got that already. TV, good. Anything else? Leader. Electronics.
Lineage. Yeah, that's what I want to say. It came from
Cool. Cool. Plants. Good. We'll take two more. And then we'll go to the third name. I don't think you guys are going to know the third name. Trick me once. I like that. Trick me once. You ain't getting more than one try. Twin Towers. Yes, go. Twin Towers. Okay. And we'll take one more thing. Let's see if the purpose. What more? I don't know if he did. I don't. Yeah, Bin Laden. Wait though. Yeah, I was gonna say because Obama couldn't have done Gaddafi. He did he? That's mad because Gaddafi was talking very well of him. You know that? Yeah, man. He's our Kenyan brother. It couldn't, no, because no one after Obama got Gaddafi, unless it was Trump. That is sad. All right, let's jump in. All right, good day. Those of you who are joining us on YouTube, first and foremost, let us know if you're joining us on YouTube that you can hear us and that you're getting the audio coming through. We are about to start our family Bible and breakfast session. This is a very powerful session. I'm not going to tell you the title right now because I don't want to steal the thunder. I think it'll give a bit too much away. But we're starting with the question, what does the name Clinton cause you to think of? All right, and we had a whole bunch of answers which we let you guys hear before we finished with the timer. Scandal, Bill, cards, cheating, wife, Hillary, power, husband, president, celebrity, war, money, and so forth and so forth. And then we just asked the last question, which was, when you hear the word Bush or the name Bush, what comes to mind? And we had some other answers, which were trick me once, electronics, washing machine, TV, Twin Towers, plants, Bin Laden, lineage, and a few other things. War came up again, right? So we're gonna have one more name added. So for those of you who are joining us on YouTube, let us know in the chat your answer to this question as well. And for those of you in the house, I'm gonna put the name up. But like I said, you might not know. I hope you know this name. I hope you guys know politics like this, right? When you hear the name Miliband, what comes to mind? Okay? What comes to mind? If anything, let me know. Say it again.
Politics.
Okay, politics. politics. And those of you on YouTube, let us know as well, when you hear the name Miliband, what comes to mind? All right. UK, you say war. Okay, law. Yep, law. And then UK. Okay. Let's go. Miliband. Miliband. Yeah. You say gold. Cool. I don't believe so. You can Google it if you want. Singing band. Okay.
Is it Miliband?
I don't think I spelled it right. It might sound like Miliband. Yes, Ed. And his brother. Edward Samuel. Is his middle name Samuel? That's interesting. Come on, guys. No, it's not Steve Miliband. David Miliband. Let's write their names, Ed and David. Huh? Posh? Yep, okay. Posh? All right, guys, we got 2 minutes left. So any last answers, throw them in, MP. And for those of you who are joining us on YouTube, if you got answers, throw them in as well, MP. Okay. Any last answers, guys? Any last answers? Should I write that? No comment. All right. No comment. All right. Are we done? Let me know if we're done, guys. We're done, yeah? All right, cool. So this is very interesting, yeah? Because I wanted to start today's session by asking a question. And the question I wanted to start by asking is what we've just answered, right? For a specific reason. Because today's topic, today's title is why do families struggle with a few things that I'm going to be talking about throughout today's session, all right? Is he okay? Is he all right? Cool. All right, cool. So this is what we're going to be deep diving into today's session. So today's going to be very, very impactful, in my opinion. So for those of you with your notepads, you're going to get a lot of juice to squeeze out into your, wherever you squeeze, wherever, into your glass, into your intellectual glass, right? All right, cool. And there's seats here, guys. If you want seats, there's seats here.
I just know I get up a lot.
All right, cool. And for those of you who are just coming in now, if you would like a seat, there are seats here. The whole sofa is free. The whole sofa is free for people who want more comfortable seating, all right, as we jump into today's session. All right, now, in terms of reading, we're going to get started in Genesis 16. I don't know when I'm going to get there, so you can just put your finger there. I'm going to be very real with you today. Just put your finger there and just know that's where we're supposed to go. And then after Genesis 16, we might be in Genesis 21. Genesis 21 is the main place, but hopefully we'll get there quickly. All right, now, today we want to talk about this question I started with. When I say the name Clinton, what comes to mind? When I say the name Bush, what comes to mind? When I say the name Miliband, what comes to mind? And you guys said a whole bunch of stuff which is super powerful, like power, law. We spoke about money, war. We spoke about celebrity, being a president, lineage, okay? We spoke about the Twin Towers. We spoke about other people, Gaddafi, okay? Well-spoken, Ed, David, Jewish, money, MP, all of these things, all super powerful, right? Now, what I think super interesting is this. The Clintons, okay? The Clintons. We had Bill Clinton, who was, what in the US? The literal president of the United States of America. Okay, so Bill Clinton was the president of the United States of America. And a few years, it's actually more than a couple or a few, but some years after he was the president of the United States of America, we had another person with the same surname running for president. Is that correct? What was their name? Hillary, his wife. Yeah? So this word you guys said about lineage is a very interesting word as it pertains A, to family, but B, to what we're talking about today. Okay, why? Because we saw Bill Clinton become the president of the United States, and a little while after, we saw his wife running to be the president of the United States. Is that correct? All right, interesting, right? So that's the Clintons, okay? We saw two of them attempting to take the same office, right? Now let's go deeper. I then said the word Bush, okay? Now, what's interesting is we had a President Bush, right? How many of those? We had two of those. We had two of those, yeah? So, although Dwayne said trick me once, we had two of those, okay? We had George Bush Sr., and then sometime after we had George Bush Jr., both occupy the Oval Office, both occupy as presidents of the United States. So again, this word lineage becomes quite interesting and quite important. Is that correct? Now, let's bring it to UK politics because most of you guys are from the UK. But what I think is super interesting, right, is I asked about the Clintons, you guys gave me bare things. I asked about Bush, you gave me bare things. I asked about Miliband, everyone was like, whoa, who's that? Right? Now, here's the thing that's interesting about the Milibands, right? We have both Ed and David Miliband, who have for over a decade been very, very prevalent inside of our UK global sphere, okay? Okay? Yeah, so let's blame it on the spelling. That's cool, right? I know there's a song out there, blame it on the alcohol. Let's just blame it on the spelling, all right? Cool. Let's blame it on the spelling. Now, it's my fault, okay? But here's the question, right? I don't know if this is actually true. I think one of them, I believe it was Ed. Ed was actually the prime minister for a little while. Was he the prime minister for a little while? I believe he took interim prime ministry. Yes. No, he was the head. He was the head of, okay, someone Google it and just confirm, because I'm close to certain that for a period of time, he was our interim prime minister. He was actually in the seat of power for a period of time, from my belief. He was not voted in, to my memory, but I think he did actually, okay. I can't remember, but was it Gordon Brown? Okay, so if you get the info, just share it, all right? It might have been Gordon Brown. All right, Kate, so just tell us. What does it say?
Gordon Brown preceded by Gordon Brown, succeeded by Jeremy Corbyn.
So is that as the head of Labour or is that as Prime Minister? Yeah, because Corbyn has never been Prime Minister. So that chain is only Labour Party. No, he wasn't Prime Minister. Okay, so head of Labour. All right, cool. Yeah, that man was on a Conservative run. Yeah, Labour didn't get in. They were trying. They didn't get in. All right, cool. Now, what's interesting, I could be wrong about this as well, but I'm just floating these ideas because they're just in my head, right? I'm sure Ed and David were not both Labour the whole time. I'm sure of it. I'm sure that one of them was Conservative at some point. Maybe even both of them might have been, but I'm sure, and you guys check for me. No, I'm not talking about what they both are now, but I think in their whole tenure, I think at one stage, one of them was Conservative, if not both of them, before coming over to Labour. I don't know. It's just a thought in my head. I'm just putting it out there. And you're going to realize these thoughts in my head that I'm just putting out there are going to become very relevant later. But I'm just putting it out there, right, for us to think about. Now, why is this so interesting? Okay, why is this so interesting? This is interesting because with the Milibands, again, with one of them, specifically Ed Miliband, being the head of the Labour Party, after Gordon Brown, we know, was the Prime Minister of the UK. And before Jeremy Corbyn, Jeremy Corbyn had a very good run at potentially being the Prime Minister of the UK. So again, we see this conceptual idea with Ed and David Miliband of lineage. Now, what's really interesting for those of you who are interested in politics a little bit, is anyone actually interested in politics? All right, just some of us, right? For those of us who are really interested in politics, what's really interesting is the fact that, I've just lost my train of thought. No, that's it. Is the fact that David Miliband is the older brother. David Miliband, I don't want to say it like this, but kind of, if you could say, did all of the work for the Miliband family, but Ed Miliband was the first Miliband to become a head of a party. Does that make sense? Right? I just want I want that idea to sit with you for a bit. Because sometimes as a family, we don't want to do the work because we think someone else is going to get the benefit. But we don't realize that if we do the work properly, the someone else who gets the benefit can still be your family. Does that make sense? Right? So this is it's a very important concept to think about, right? Maybe the question I'm asking without asking is, are you willing to do the work even if you don't feel like you get the return? Are you willing to do that work? Because here's the funny thing. You might not realize this, but hopefully you do realize this. The work that Bill Clinton done, even though he was out of office as a cheater and a scandal man, gave Hillary the platform to push and potentially attempt to be the first female president of the United States. Does this make sense? And what's interesting is she's been running for time. Like she didn't just run once. I want you guys to understand, like she has been either at the front of running or behind those running for a long time. Why is this important? Lineage. This is very important because this conceptual idea that we've spoken about, which we've said is lineage. Thank you, ladies. All right? Which is lineage. So, what we're going to be talking about today is a concept called, sorry, Tyron, can I get a bud rubber, please? We're going to be talking about a concept called the family IQ, right? Just like your family IQ. Now, usually when we use the term IQ with the I and the Q, we're usually talking about the intelligent quotient, right? The intelligent quotient. So when people take an IQ test, they're taking an intelligent quotient test. So that's not what we're talking about, okay? So I'm going to define what I'm talking about, right? So I'm not talking about IQ in terms of an I and a Q. I'm talking more about an IQ in terms of the terms of an I and a cube, okay? An I and a cube. And I'm going to show you what I mean in a moment. Because I'm going to talk about 3 different things which are all very important, which all work together to produce some results for your family, okay? So that's what we're going to be talking about. So let's jump into this. The first thing that we're going to talk about for your family, which is very important, is your family's intent. Okay? Your family's intent. No, that's well. Thank you, bro. Your family's intent. That's the first thing we're going to be talking about. Okay? Your family's actual intent. Now, after we talk about your family's intent, we're going to go a bit deeper and we'll be using both Genesis 16, as I mentioned, and some other passages to look at these other 2 ideas. But the first one is intent. Okay? All right, now, after we discover or discuss the family's intent, we're going to be talking about, all right, first we're going to start with the family's intent. After we talk about the family's intent, we're going to be talking about your family's influence. Your family's influence. Now, when we say intent, what are we talking about? We're talking about what is the intention of your family? What is the intention for your family? Does your family, here's a good question to ask yourself, does your family have an actual intention? Like, does your family actually have an intention? Or is your family just another family in the year 2000 and whatever the year is at that time? Does your family have an intent? Now, what's interesting, if you understand the power of an intent, okay, people do all they do based on intent. Like, I don't know if we understand how powerful intent is. Let me give you an example, right? If somebody murders somebody, they can be taken to prison for murder. The only way, if somebody murders somebody, that they typically will not be charged with murder is if they can prove they did not have that intent. Huh? Yeah. Yeah, well, if something's premeditated, so as long as you can show that was not your intent, if you can prove without a shadow of a doubt that was not your intent in the court of law, that is usually the only way you can get away with murder. Think about that. Think about that. That's how important intent is. Intent is the difference, literally, hello, princess, literally between life and death. Because if you can show I had no intent to do that, you can actually be expunged or excused from that. Okay, so this is how important intent is. So here's the question. What's your family's intent? I want you to think about that. Have you discovered your family's intent? Have you developed your family's intent? Have you deployed your family's intent? Have you taken time to figure out what is going to be the intent of your family? Maybe even a better question. Have you taken time to find out what is supposed to be the intent of your family? Samuel, you're going on here, man. What do you mean? Well, this is what I mean. You have Bill Clinton, husband, president of the United States. You have his wife attempt to take the exact same office. I would argue that that family had an intent. You have George Bush Sr., who occupies the corridors of power as the president of the United States. And some terms later, you have his son, George Bush Jr., occupy the exact same office. I would submit to you that that family had an intent. You have both Ed and David, brothers, the Miliband's, in the UK, inside of seats of power, inside of the UK political sphere. I would submit to you that that family had an intent. Now, let me say something that you might not even realize. That intent may not have been Ed and David's intent. That intent may not have been George Bush Jr. or even George Bush Sr.'s intent. It could have been the intent of their parents. It could have been the intent of their grandparents. It could have been the intent of their great-great-grandparents or their uncles or some other member who had influence in the family. Does this make sense? Now, here's why this is powerful. Your intent and your influence is going to determine your potential impact. There are families who have no impact because they do not work on influence and they have no or very weak intent. There are equally families who have enormous impact because they work on their influence and they have a whole heap of desire and intent. Now, here's a verse of scripture just to help you understand what I'm talking about. In Proverbs 29, verse 18, it says, without a vision, the people perish. Do you know what a vision is? It's a formalized ideology of your intent. A vision is a picture of what you intend to do. And without a picture of what you intend to do, you are going to perish. Let me just take it to the sphere that I'm actually talking about. Without a picture of what you desire to do, your family is going to perish. I want you to think about that. For those of us who have more than one child, like, let me even be nice. For those of us who have just one child, even one child, your intent, your influence and your impact are crucial because they have to at least last beyond your generation. If you have no children, then your intent and your influence and your impact doesn't have to last beyond your generation. Unless you desire to have children. But if you have children, it is incumbent upon you for your influence, your impact, and your intent to last beyond your current generation. Why, Samuel? Because your children are going to have to live with the ramifications. That's why. Your children are like George Bush Jr. lived with the ramifications of George Bush Sr.'s actions. Let me hopefully say this in a way where it will sink. If George Bush Sr. was a little bit too wild when he was a president, guess what people would have said? No, that family, no, they're crazy. They're crazy. No one from that family will ever be in the presidential office again. Your next generation, your current generation that you're managing or fostering, is going to have to live with the ramifications of your impact, your intent, and your influence as it pertains to your lineage, as it pertains to your legacy. This is things we should think about. This is things we'd find value in thinking about, okay? And I'm going to be showing some illustrations today to help you understand this, okay? So these are the three things we're going to be talking about: intent, influence, and impact. So I did say I don't know if I'm going to get there, so let's go there first. Let's go to Genesis 16, okay? Genesis 16. All right? Genesis chapter 16. And we're going to get started there, and hopefully this is going to help everyone. We're going to read through, and we're going to be quick because of time. All right? Genesis 16, I'm going to start in verse 1. I'm going to go all the way to the end, which is verse 16. And then we'll jump into Genesis 21 later. Okay? Genesis 16. Now, please remember this, guys. Intent, influence, impact. Intent, influence, impact. Samuel, why are these three so well connected? Because if you have no intent, you will not develop any influence. You will be unable to make an impact. If you have no intent, you will not develop any influence. You will be unable to have an impact. The only people that are impacting your life right now are people who developed a level of influence in your life at some point. I will say that again in case you need to pick up your pen. The only people having any level of impact in your life right now are only able to have a level of impact in your life right now because at some point, usually previously to now, they developed a level of influence. Does this make sense? Now, let me make even more sense. In order for the people who impact you right now to have created any level of influence with you prior to now, those people would have had to first have an intent. Does that make sense? This is a very simple thing which can be very simply missed. And if you don't figure out how you're going to start to work it out, you will not be able to do any of this without a doubt. You have to start by having an intent. If you do not have an intent, you will not do the work to create an influence. If you do not create an influence, you will be unable, you will be disqualified, you will be removed from the table of being able to have an impact. Does that make sense? Let's go. We're in Genesis 16. I'm going to be reading from verse 1. Now Sarai, Abraham's wife, bare him no children. Okay? No children. Sorry. As I'm reading this, I'm thinking about these three things. That's why I'm laughing. Okay? Because I'm thinking about this. Sarai, Abraham's wife, bore him no children. What are offspring? Okay? Offspring are a way that you can make an impact because they are carriers of your influence and they are a byproduct of your intent. You see, human beings sometimes are so shallow, they just think, oh, a mama and a papa make a baby. They don't understand that is a byproduct of intent. Does this make sense? And when your intent produces something, that thing it produces is going to bear your influence. God had an intent, Genesis chapter 1, 15 chapters prior to where we are. Let us make man in our image, in our likeness. That conversation is the conversation of intent. This is why if you are a true believer, you can show up and have impact. Because you understand the intent happened before I showed up. I don't have to come with a new intent because I can find the original intent that I'm built into and I can start using that to manufacture influence. And if I start using the original intent that was created for me and I start developing and building a level of influence, I can then start making an impact on behalf of the original intender. The problem again, like I was saying earlier, is some people don't like doing work where they don't see how they're going to get the payoff. But here's the funniest thing. This will be helpful for someone. If you decide to leverage an intent that was here before you, don't be upset if you're going to make an impact that shows up after you. If you decide to leverage an intent that was here before you, don't be surprised if you end up making an impact that shows up after you. Do you know why that happens? Because you are deciding to leverage a conceptual ideology which is beyond your time frame. You're saying, okay, I showed up here in the 1980s, but I'm not going to rely on the 1980s to produce some value from me. I'm going to go as far back as I can. Let's say you go to the beginning of time, and I'm going to leverage the original intent from the beginning of time. So Here's a little clue. If you are leveraging an intent from the beginning of time, when do you think your impact might show up at its highest level? At the end of time. Does this make sense? Like, a lot of people don't get this stuff, but this is the reality. Like, if I take a intent that was here before me, I should understand the impact of this intent might actually occur after me. This is Abraham's story. You're going to have all the children. He got an intent from the creator of heaven and earth. But that intent, we're now seeing it play out today. Does this make sense? Abraham's not here. But the lineage is living on. It's making sense, guys, right? All right, let's go. Let's read a story which is going to be interesting. Genesis 16, verse 1. Now Sarai, Abraham's wife, bare him no children. So someone could argue he wasn't going to be able to make the impact that he was looking to make. And she had an handmaid, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar. And Sarai said unto Abraham, behold now, the Lord has restrained me from bearing. Okay? So she's talking about what she perceives to be God's intent with her. Okay? I pray thee. Okay? So for those women who don't want your man with another woman, she was begging him. Okay? She said, I pray thee. Okay? All right. Go in unto my maid. It may be that I may obtain children by her. Okay? So what was the intent in this process? A child. Yeah, a child. We need a child. We need a child. Why? Because we want to make an impact beyond our lifetime. In order to make an impact beyond our lifetime, we need to have something that will definitely go on beyond our lifetime. So we need a child. Okay? We need a child. This is what they're working for. We need a child. Verse 2. It may be that I may obtain a child by her. And Abram hearkened to the voice of Sarai. Okay? Now, you guys might not see this, but it said Abram, it didn't need to write that. It could have just written, and Sarai, Abraham's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, after Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to her husband, Abram, to be his wife. We didn't need to get the last line of verse 2. So the question is, what was the purpose of the last line of verse 2? Like, if you're someone like me, you believe every single line in the Bible has value. There's a reason for every line. But if you read this narrative, verse 2 and verse 3, you realize, hold on, you didn't need to say the last line of verse 2. Why did you tell me that Abraham listened to his wife? I'm going to tell you why it tells you Abraham listened to his wife. Because the formula is intent, then influence, then impact. So it's telling you that his wife had influence, which means we're going to see impact. We can already see intent. The intent was we need a child. There is some ideology here that we need a child. Okay, it looks like from what she said, God has restrained me from having a child. So here's my handmaid, take her and have a child with her. Intent. Then it said he hearkened unto his wife. Influence. He was influenced. And then we start to look at the impact. Let's go verse 3. And Sarai, Abraham's wife, took Hagar, her handmaid, the Egyptian, after Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to her husband Abram to be his wife. Listen to this, verse 4. And he went in unto Hagar, and she conceived. Impact. Okay, let's go deeper. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. Okay, now let's keep going. I'll leave that for the women to think about. All right, verse 5. And Sarai said unto Abram, my wrong be upon thee. I have given my maid into your bosom. And when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. The Lord judge between me and thee. Verse 6. But Abram said unto Sarai, behold, thy maid is in your hand. She's yours. She works for you. Okay. Do to her as it pleased you. And when Sarai dealt hardly with her, she fled from her face. Okay? Everyone with us so far? Verse 7. Okay, this is important, especially for those of you who were tuned in last month when we was online, right? We spoke about family last month in a very unique way, but hopefully you're tuned in. Let's go. Verse 7. And the angel of the Lord found her by a fountain of water in the wilderness. Hopefully all of these things will be of value to you later on. By the fountain in the way of Shur. Verse 8. And he said, Hagar, Sarai's maid, whence comest thou? And where will you go? And she said, I flee from the face of my mistress Sarai. Verse 9. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, return to your mistress and submit thyself under her hands. Verse 10. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, I will multiply your seed exceedingly. Impact. Because of the influence. Because of the intent. Now, here's the thing that's super powerful about this part right here. We are now getting tuned into the intent of who? Yeah, right now. Yes, Carol's got it, right? You guys said you're listening, so if you're listening, I'm going to ask questions, right? All right? We are now getting tuned into the intent. We just heard the intent of Sarai. We need to have a child. Take my maid. Okay? We're in verse 9. Okay? We need to have a child. Take my maid. We saw her intent. We saw her influence. Abraham hearkened unto her. We saw what happened. They had a child. Okay? Now we're seeing the intent of God himself. God says, go back to your maid and submit. Go back to your mistress and submit yourself to her. Okay? Why is God now exercising, please, someone please understand this, right? Could Hagar have said to the angel, no? Okay. For those of you on YouTube who can't hear, because they're all saying it quietly, everyone's saying, yeah. Okay. In good old Jim Rohn fashion, my answer is, of course. She could have, of course, said, no, I'm not going back. You see the way she looked at me? I'm out. Okay, now, why am I asking this question and why am I sharing this so eloquently? Because this is important for us to understand. Even when God exercises his influence, you can choose to not allow him to have his impact. Does that make sense? You can make the decision that you don't want to be in alignment with what God is doing. God is giving her an assignment. She has the decision whether she wants to be in alignment. Now, let me say this, because this you might not be thinking about this, but I think this is important. I can't whisper it, because then only the people on YouTube will hear it. She's an Egyptian. Okay, for Tyrone, who's giving me that face, so what does that mean? That means she does not have the kind of covenant with God that Abraham and Sarai had. Does this make sense? And when we get to Genesis 21, you're going to see this even more. But I want you to think about this. I want this to be in your mind. Like, hold on a minute. Are you telling me that God even has an assignment for people who spiritually are out of alignment? And the answer to that is, of course. Of course. Just because you haven't confessed Jesus Christ as your personal Lord and Savior, that doesn't mean he doesn't have an assignment for you. That doesn't mean he hasn't got an intention for you. That doesn't mean he hasn't got an end goal for you. The Bible, let me not go into that because that's a rabbit I will chase. The Bible talks about a King Cyrus. It says that King Cyrus was used of God, but King Cyrus had no relationship with God. The Bible says throughout the book of Proverbs that the heart of the king is in the hand of the Lord and he turns it whithersoever he desires. So the point I'm making, I just want us to be very clear on this. God will come out of heaven in the form of an angel or messenger, etc., right? God will make his influence known, but it's up to us to partner with him to have his impact shown. Does that make sense? How do you know that, Samuel? Because Genesis chapter 1 says, let us make man in our image and let them have dominion. Over what? The things on earth. God did not give himself dominion over the things on earth except in partnership with you and I. He decided that his power will stay where he resided. And he decided it would only be fair if he, like, you got to think about this, right? If God made us powerless, God didn't make us in his image. Does that make sense? Yeah. If God made us with no dominion, he didn't make us in his likeness. This is what we have to really rationalize with. Because sometimes people go through situations, scenarios, and settings in their life and they feel powerless because they don't realize the image and likeness they were made in. They don't realize, hold on a minute, I was made in the image of God, I must have power. I was made in the image of God, I must have dominion. I was made in the image of God. I must be able to produce some form of impact to get through this stuff that's trying to convince me that it's bigger than me, that it's bolder than me, that it's stronger than me. This is how he made you in his image and his likeness. And here's, oh, this is so good. Here's the question you have to ask yourself sometimes. Is he a liar or are you? Like, it's just that real. Because here's the funniest thing, right? It's easy to believe someone else is a liar because they're not in your head. But the reality is, if you believe you are powerless, if you believe you are dominionless, then you believe that God lied. And if you are going to take the appreciation that God did not lie, then you will do well to take your power and your dominion back. And realize, I have power. I have dominion. I may not know how to use it, but I have it. I may not know if I can use it, but I have it. I may not know what to do, but I have it. And if you start doing that, I assure you, you will start to develop your intent. Because you'll realize, I got power. So, this is so good. The only reason someone can make sense of having no intent is because they have no power. Does that make sense? Like, why else would you have no intent? The only reason you have no intent is because you don't recognize you have power. So what does that mean? Mathematically, what that means is if I realize I have power, it will force me to have an intent. If I realize I have something of value, it will force me to utilize my value. What happens is we've been deceived by the enemy into believing we don't have anything of value, into believing we don't have any power. So when you believe you don't have any power, guess what? You do not end up with an intent. And then you conform to Proverbs 29 verse 18, for without a vision the people perish. If you don't have an intent, you can't turn that intent into a picture, a clear crystallized picture. If you can't turn it into a picture, you have no vision. And without a vision, you're guaranteed to perish. Now, why would someone mack you like that? I'll tell you why someone will mack you like that. Because he's a thief. And if you read John 10:10, it says the thief only comes to steal, kill, and destroy you. How's he going to destroy you? By making you believe you don't have power. By making you believe you don't have any dominion. And the moment you believe him, that you don't have power and you don't have dominion, guess what you're going to do? You are going to have no intent. And no intent is going to result in destruction. Let's jump back in. Genesis 16. Is this helping someone? Okay, that's good. All right. Genesis 16. Let's go to verse 8. And he said, this is the angel, Hagar, Sarai's maid, whence comest thou, and whither wilt thou go? And she said, I flee from the face of my mistress Sarai. Verse 9, and the angel of the Lord said unto her, return to your mistress and submit yourself unto her. Verse 10, and the angel of the Lord said unto her, I will multiply your seed exceedingly. Does anyone know let me ask it more openly, okay? Why do you guys think that the angel started telling Hagar what she was gonna get? Does anyone know why the angel started doing that? Why did the angel not just say, go back to your mistress and submit yourself unto her? I'm an angel, I'm telling you, go do it. Say again, sorry, Carol. That's powerful, that's really powerful. I wasn't thinking about that, but that's very, very powerful. That's definitely part of it. Does anyone know why the angel is explaining to Hagar what's gonna happen for her? Sorry, Robbie, what'd you say?
I just said if she goes back.
Yeah, if she goes back. Dwayne, what did you say? Hope, okay. So Carol said to give her a vision. Dwayne said to develop her hope or to give her hope, okay? Anyone else? Mandy? Yep. All right, so Mandy says so that she's receiving an invitation.
I was thinking maybe because like what you said, she's Egyptian, she might not be aware of how God works.
Okay.
It's just an explanation of this is how God works, you do this and this is what he does.
Okay, cool. We'll take 2 more answers.
For God's promise to come to pass.
Okay, cool. I like that. So it's being voiced for it to come to pass. Reginald, last person, let's go. Which one? Oh, is your hand not up? Your hand is like that and it's not up. Wow. Okay, who wants to go last? Who wants to share last? It was the other hand. It was this one. It was this hand. That was, yeah. All right, cool. Nah.
It was an invitation for maybe to open up her heart to see, to win her over to.
Okay, that's powerful, right? So basically, I'm going to use different words than what Christina said, right? But effectively, what Christina said last is to convince her. Christina used the words to open up her heart towards what she believes, right? Or to what in order to get her to believe, right? But to me, that's kind of like convincing, right? So yes, all right, cool. So these are all good answers, right? So I'm going to tell you why I believe the angel told her what's going to be her payoff. Okay? I believe the reason why the angel told her what she's going to get is because the angel is working for God and God knows everything. And what God knows is if you mess with human psychology, that is a fight you're going to lose. If I tell you to do something and I don't give you a reason, like, I don't know if you know this, psychologists have done studies and found that if you give people a reason for why you ask something from them, they are highly more likely to comply with your request. Okay, has anyone ever heard of that? Yeah. All right, if you study psychology, right, there's a very famous study of the photocopier machine. I don't know if you guys are aware of that. So there's a photocopier machine. They're doing this empirical study. There's a photocopy machine and there's a long line of people waiting to photocopy their stuff. And they take the research student and they tell them, you want to go to the line and tell the person in front of you, can I go in front of you please because of this? So they did this 3 different ways. The first way is, can I go in front of you? The second way is, can I go in front of you because of this? And the reason is an urgent reason, i.e. I have to get my paper in by 4 p.m. and it's 3:58. And then the last thing that they did in the study was say you need to get in front of them for a reason, and the reason is something completely bogus, which means nothing to anyone. I need to get in front of you because Arsenal's playing football tomorrow. Okay? What they found is the percentage of difference when you had a good reason and when you had any reason was minimal. But the percentage of difference when you had the reason versus when you had no reason was massive. So it's more likely when you use the word because that people will think, okay, regardless of what comes after the because. So what am I sharing with you? I'm just sharing with you human psychology. Human psychology is, well, you have to have a reason, right? You have to have a reason to go to war and just start bombing Iran. You have to have a reason, right? You have to have a reason to say we're going to kill Saddam. You have to have you can't, I want to kill Saddam. Okay. He's got anger issues. Let's just tell him no, right? But we believe Saddam has weapons of mass destruction. Let's go kill him. And then you go kill him. And then we all find out there was no weapons of mass destruction. So why did you kill him? Because I had a reason. Why did we let you kill him? Because you gave us a reason. Human psychology. Does this make sense? Okay. Now, why is this important? This is important because God knows this. God knows when he deals with human beings are looking for a reason. So because we're looking, and let me tell you why we're looking for a reason. Because otherwise, if I just stop there, you guys might not understand this part of human psychology. The reason we're looking for a reason is because we are rational. We have a rational element to us. Animals are not looking for a reason. That tiger will bite you because you're there. It's not looking for a reason. Does this make sense? Okay? So an animal, you might use this language, will operate more out of instinct. Whereas a human has the capacity, I'm not saying always do, has the capacity to operate out of intellect. Does this make sense? Because we have a level and capacity to reason. God says this so powerfully. He says, I believe it's in the book of Isaiah. He says, it is in Isaiah. He says, come, let us reason together. What's he saying to you? He's saying, I understand you have an intellect, so I'm not going to bypass your intellect. I don't want to go here, but I'm going to go here. This is why if you go to a church that is trying to bypass your intellect by playing music to covertly go past your subconscious to tell you, oh yeah, do you want to be saved? Like, this is why people that get saved like that end up leaving Christ. People that don't have a rational idea in their mind of why they recognize they need to choose Jesus over all the other stuff they've been choosing. This is why they lack longevity in their Christian walk. Does this make sense? All right. Hopefully this is helpful. So he gives her the reason. He says to her, listen, you're going to get something out of this. I'm not just telling you to do it because I think it's a good idea to do it. I'm telling you to do it because you're going to get something out of this. Now, guys, I want to say this here because some of us have been raised in churches where we get told, like, look, you should just do it for the sake of doing it. Or you should just do it because you're obedient. Or you should, like, guys, yes, you should just do it because you're obedient. Yes, you should just do it for the sake of doing it. But the reality is, God understands you're looking for a reason. So if you are willing to reason with him, he will show you the reason. Oh, Samuel, I don't believe you because my pastor told. Okay, why does he tell you to come and reason with him? What are you reasoning about? What are you reasoning about if you don't need a reason? Like, just think about it. God just, go jump off that building. God knows who he created. So he knows there's going to be a conversation. He knows he's going to. Guys, this is why so many people, they look at Gideon and they're like, oh no, Gideon was disobedient. No, Gideon was looking for a reason. Gideon was saying, God, okay, if this is you, you want me to go to war, that's okay, cool, I get it. I get what you want me to do, but let me just make sure that this is you. When I wake up tomorrow, can you, that was Gideon's attempt to reason with God. Does this make sense? Like, we can go, oh, he's doubting Thomas. What did Jesus do with the guy that the world is telling us to call doubting Thomas? He gave him a reason. He said, look, here's my hand. Put your finger inside. Touch it. I told you it was real. I told you. They told you. You didn't believe them. Here, look. Have a reason. Because look, this is the thing. Don't be hoodwinked. Don't be hoodwinked into thinking that God doesn't know you deeper than you know yourself. Don't be hoodwinked into thinking that God's just going to tell you, yeah, just go do this thing. God is going to give you a reason. Let me tell you two of the biggest problems we have in our society. One, we've been told to not look for a reason from God because he's God. So guess what we do? We stop the conversation before God talks to us about our compensation. We're just, okay, God's told me to do this. Is this God or is this the devil? You know why you're asking, is this God or is this the devil? Because you didn't have the conversation. If you had the conversation and he started to show you, like he said in Jeremiah, come unto me and I will show you things you have not seen. If he shows you those things, you're going to know this can't be the devil. This can't be the devil. The devil wouldn't want that goodness for me. Does this make sense? All right, let's get back in the book. Let's go. We're in verse 9. I'm going to go back to verse 9. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, return to thy mistress and submit thyself under her hands. Verse 10, and the angel of the Lord said unto her, I will multiply your seed exceedingly, that it shall not be numbered for multitude. Verse 11, and the angel of the Lord said unto her, behold, you are with child, and shall bear a son, and shall call his name Ishmael, because the Lord hath heard your affliction. 12, and he will be a wild man. His hand will be against every man, and every man's hand against him. He's going to be a guy ready for war. Oh, Lord. For those of you who are looking at the GCC right now, let's go. All right. 13. No. 12. And he will be a wild man. His hand will be against every man, and every man's hand against him. And he shall dwell in the presence of all his brethren. Verse 13. And she called the name of the Lord that spake unto her, Thou God seest me, which is El Roy. Okay, in Hebrew. For she said, Have I also here looked after him that seeth me? 14. Wherefore the well was called Beer Lahai Roy. Behold, it is between Kadesh and Bered. Now, 15 and 16. And Hagar bare Abram a son, and Abram called his son's name, which Hagar bare, Ishmael. I'll leave the question unto you. Where did he get that name from? 16. And Abram, 86. A score is 20. 80. 86 years old when Hagar bared Ishmael to Abraham. All right. Everyone with me, yes? All right. In those verses, we saw a whole bunch of intent. We saw the power of influence, and we saw impact. Let's go to Genesis 21 now. Okay, Genesis 21. All right. The question I would encourage you to put in your journal is, what is my family's intent? Okay? What is my family's intent? Okay? What is my family's intent? Okay? All right. Now, this is interesting. And guys, for those of you, the board wasn't rubbed earlier, so I couldn't show you this, right? But just to make this make sense, okay? So, this is what I meant when I said I cubed, right? So you guys can see what I'm talking about, all right? So this is I cubed is I times I times I, okay? So we're talking about here our intent. We're talking about our influence. And we're talking about our impact. Okay? And I would share this with you. A lot of quote-unquote Christian families struggle with this. They struggle with having the right intent. They struggle with developing the right kind of influence, and they struggle with having the appropriate impact. Okay? I will say this because I think this will be helpful. There are a lot of other cultures that do not struggle with these things. Okay? There's a lot of other cultures that do not struggle with intent. They do not struggle with their influence, and they do not struggle with impact. Okay? And if you meet someone in your workplace, if you meet someone in your business endeavors who comes from one of those cultures, you will know straight away. They might not talk to you about the intent, but you'll definitely see their purpose, a person operating with influence. They've been influenced so that they walk out that influence. Does that make sense? Yeah. I will give you an example. Sorry, I just thought about the way some guy said this yesterday. So I watched the video yesterday. The guy said something which made me laugh. Yeah? He said, if you go to some areas in the UK, he said, it looks like you're in Kuwait. Okay? It looks like you're in Kuwait. Now, how can you go to an area in the UK How can you go to an area in the UK? Yes, you got it. How can you go to an area in the UK and it look like you're in Kuwait? Reginald said, because of all three of these. Because someone had an intent, produced a level of influence, and it's having an impact, even in the UK. How can, in the central of London, which is called, thank you, Berry, which is called prime real estate. That's primary. The most valuable properties in London are probably in the center of London, right? But we have a Chinatown in the center of London. Why? Intent, influence, impact. Does that make sense? What happens when you go to Stamford Hill? Intent, influence, impact. Is this correct? Okay. Now, here's what's interesting. If you go to America, in multiple states, you find the same thing I just described is in London. A Chinatown. Why? Intent, influence, impact. So, do you think you're going to meet someone who's walking in that kind of influence and you're going to influence them? Not if you don't have any real intent. Not if you're not operating with any real influence. Not if the influence you're operating with doesn't have any real impact. Does this make sense? Like, does it make sense? Does it make sense why certain people can't stay in the faith? Because they're not operating with any intent. They haven't picked up any influence. They're not able to orchestrate any impact. Does that make sense? Yeah? And I'll say this to you so you understand this. The Bible, the Bible throughout, but specifically according to Matthew chapter 6, it is encouraging us to be like that on this earth. It says, your kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. That means the same way wherever you go in this world, you see a Chinatown. Wherever you go in this world, there should be a kingdom town. So this goes back to the question I asked, what is your family's intent? Is your family's intent to start developing, distributing, and deploying a kingdom town? Or is your family's intent to just do whatever's happening in town? Because that's what most people are doing. They're just doing whatever's happening in town. Like, guys, like, what makes certain clothes fashionable? Someone's influence. How did they create that influence? Because they had an intent. You have all these young boys, they want to wear Gucci. You have all these people, they want to wear Rolex. They want to wear Patek. You want to wear Patek Philippe. Whose name are you putting on you? Someone who divided or who decided to create influence. Does this make sense? For whatever reason, influence. This is the power of influence. The UK went around the world, colonizing the world. Not kingdomizing, colonizing. Do you know what that was? Intent, influence, and impact. Impact. Even if someone had to die. And many, many, many people died. Innocent people died. For them to portray their intent, create influence, and produce an impact. Now, in countries like India, they are talking about tea time, which is an English concept. Does this make sense? Yeah. Now, in countries in Africa, they are speaking English and teaching English in schools, which is an English impact. Does this make sense? Are you gonna have that level of impact? Thank you, Princess. Are you going to have that level of impact? Or are you going to just do whatever's happening in town? Because here's the thing to understand. If you're going to just do whatever's happening in town, please bear in mind, someone made that happen in town. If you are going to do whatever's happening in town, please first bear in mind, someone decided to make that happen over time in town. Like, just so what I'm saying is super clear, there is nothing happening that's just happening because it's happening. Everything's happening for a reason. Everything's happening because someone had an intent. Everything's happening because someone put something in play. So here's the question. What are you putting in play? Or are you just pressing play? Let's go. All right? We're going to go to Genesis 21. And in Genesis 21, we're going to start in verse 8. Okay? Genesis 21, and we're going to get started in verse 8. Let's go. All right. Now we're reading about the same Hagar. And we just read that the year she gave birth to Ishmael, Abraham was how old? Anyone remember? There we go. 86 years old. That was Genesis 19. Now we're in Genesis 21. Genesis 21. We're going to read from verse 8. It says, and the child grew. Which child are we talking about? Yes, that same child, right? And the child grew and was weaned. Now the reason, let me not go into it. If I start going into the Hebrew, we'll be here all night. And was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast the same day that Isaac was weaned. Okay? Verse 9. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, which she had borne unto Abraham, mocking. Okay? And that actual word is just the word laughter, actually, in the Hebrew. But it has an element of mockery in it. So it's interesting it uses the word mocking. Verse 10. Wherefore she said unto Abraham, cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir with my son, even with Isaac. Okay? Now, what's the intent? Yeah. What did you say first? To get this woman out, separation. What did you say, Christina? To get rid of her. Okay? To get rid of her. Okay? So, this is so interesting. Okay? I'm going to share with you the interesting part of this for me. In Genesis 16, we saw Sarah had an intent. In Genesis 16, her intent was for them to have a child. Okay? To the extent that she would give her handmaid to her husband. Okay? That was the intent then. Now she has a different intent. Her intent is not to have a child, so much so that she's saying to Abraham, Abraham, take my maid. She's now saying, get rid of this maid. Get rid of this maid, get rid of her child. So there was an intent in Genesis 16. That intent was to have a child. Sarah's intent. We saw it. As a result, she influenced Abraham. We saw it. As a result, she had an impact. They had a child. We saw it. Now she has a new intent. Her new intent is get rid of this woman. Is this correct? Okay. So what's she probably going to do next? Influence her husband. In order to create an impact. Okay. Let's go look at it. Yes, again. And again, and again, and again, and again, and again. And I will say this, just because Robbie said again, right? This is why it's so important to choose the right intent. Because if you choose a temporal intent, your intent will be consistently changing. Does that make sense? If you choose your intent because of how the weather is today, when the weather changes tomorrow, your intent will change tomorrow. She had an intent. Her intent was, we need a child. Give me a child. Here, take my maid. Give us a child. The man did everything you wanted him to do. It wasn't enough. So what happened next? Go on, Reginald.
No, I was just going to say, like, her intent was out of the will of God. It wasn't in alignment anyway.
So Reginald is now saying her intent was out of the will of God. It was out of alignment with their assignment. Okay? But here's a question. Does anyone think any of God's intent for any of us is something he's just making up today for us? No. Before you were formed in your mother's womb, I knew you, and I had already ordained you, given my intent over you that you will be a prophet to the nations. Do you understand this? This goes back to what I said earlier. If you choose an intent for yourself that was there before you showed up, it's okay if the impact comes when you are gone. But you need to have some deep trust to be that guy who's like, I will live my whole life not seeing the impact of my intent. I'm willing to do that because I'm choosing an intent that's bigger than me. I'm choosing an intent where I'm going to play this political game for as long as I can so that my brother maybe can become the man. I'm going to choose an intent that will take me as far as I can so that even my wife can try and fulfill the plan. I'm choosing an intent for as long as I can so my son can actually be the man to take us to the promised land. Does this make sense? These are families, guys. These are not robots. These are families that have occupied the corridors of power in the US and the UK because of an intent. This is why this is so powerful. So it's an interesting dialogue we're having here because that's the reality. But the problem for most people is they're not willing to take an intent that was here before they came, and they're not willing to maybe only make an impact after they've left the game. The best coaches are not the coaches that are trying to win that one game. The best coaches are the coaches that develop a team-oriented strategy to win the whole season. Like, you guys may not know this, right? I've been studying coaches for years, right? Some coaches come into a team and they already know for the next 3 seasons they are going to lose. But they understand that the way they lose over the next 3 seasons will determine who they can buy on the team, will determine how they can position their team so that in season 4, they can start going up. By season 8, we're going to be the winning team in the whole of the league. Well, to have a long-term view like that, you have to think different to most people. And this is the problem. Most people don't think differently. Most people don't think, well, I can be the president and my son can come and be the president. How many times do you think that happens? Just think about it. Even the Clinton thing. How many times do you see a husband president and then the wife run for president? You're not going to see that often, but we've seen that in our lifetime. We've seen a dad and a son become president in our lifetime. We've seen a husband and a wife run for president in our lifetime. Just think about that for a moment. Let's go deeper. Let's go deeper. All right? She has a new intent. Now she has her new intent. We know the next thing that's going to happen is she's going to be working on an influence campaign. Verse 10. Wherefore she said unto Abraham, cast out this bondwoman and her son. For the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir with my son, even with Isaac. So, you may not realize this, but I'm going to tell you this. This influence campaign is over inheritance. She said it. This guy is not going to be heir with my guy. I hope you guys, you see, God knows this about us. We act like we don't know this about us. Oh, I'm not money hungry. I'm not interested in money. Look, God is telling you money is relevant here. We're in Genesis. We ain't got to the New Testament. We're not in Matthew or Mark. We ain't had to get to Jesus having a treasurer who's a thief. Okay? In Genesis, God is showing us in the story that the woman of God, the first lady of the ministry, is interested in the money. Okay? And she's so smart, she ain't even just interested in the money for her. She's interested in the money for her son. Yeah, bro, it's a legacy play. I need my boy, set up so he needs to be the president. Does this make sense? Okay? I just want us to be okay with this. Because the problem is, if we're not okay with this, guess what we do? We're going to live this life thinking, oh, some things don't matter, when those things actually matter. And God knows they matter. So guess what he does? He says to Hagar, go back because I'm going to prosper you. I'm going to give you some good stuff. You're going to have lineage. You're going to be good. You're going to be okay. You're going to have many descendants. Do you know? Okay, you may not realize this. I'm going to share this with you. Do you know that in biblical times, multiple descendants is a sign of prosperity? Why? Because you have to fund them. In biblical times, to have multiple children, to have grandchildren, is a sign that you have not been wiped out by famine. You haven't been wiped out by lack. Your lineage was able to navigate the storms and grow. Does this make sense? Yeah. I heard something recently. It shocked me because I never had words for it. And when this gentleman put words to it, it just started to make sense to me. The gentleman was explaining why a lot of the Eastern Asian countries only have or fight to only have one child. Okay, does anyone know why they do that? Okay, we are sold the lie in Western civilization that they do that because of population control. They do not do it because of population control. This was a Chinese man explaining this. The gentleman said the reason why in a lot of Eastern Asian nations they focus on having one child is so that they can put all their resources. Basically, let me take a step back. What the man explained is in Eastern Asian culture, what your child becomes, similar to what Sarah's fighting for here, is basically a symbol, a signal of your quality of your family. What your child becomes, who your child marries, it means so much to those Eastern Asian cultures. So what they realize is having 4 or 5 children, they need to fund all 4 or 5 children to be able to show that the family is on point and is legit and can become a standard, etc., etc. Does this make sense? And because they understand that that is a financial endeavor as well as other things, what he was explaining is they realize mathematically if they take all their resources and invest it in one child, they feel like they have the best opportunity at getting that child into a top tier university, at making sure that child can get the greatest job in the greatest firm, at making sure that that child can then go get married and marry the right person, etc. Of course it's a lack mentality, but here's where it gets even more powerful. Here's the summary. Here's the summary. Here's the summary. So Reginald said, isn't that a lack mentality? Yes, he's right. Here's the summary. I want you to see this. He said, cultures decline in population when they no longer see their neighbors as collaborators and they start to see their neighbors as competition. Cultures decline in population when they no longer see their neighbors as collaborators, but they start to see their neighbors as competition. What do we know about what they say in Africa? In Africa, they say it takes a village to raise a child. So what is the village? It is my collaborative partners. The uncle and the auntie will also tell the child, you're doing something wrong. Don't do that. Get back home. And if you got a slap from your auntie, you're going to get a slap from me as well. Because there are collaborators. They're not going to slap you for no reason. But they are talking about a culture where they're competing against each other. My child has to be better than your child. So I'm not going to have 5 children. I'm going to have 1 child, pour all my resources in to make sure my child is better than your child. They don't think they need the village. What do they need the village for? They reduce their own village to make sure they don't need a village. So how can they need a village? Instead of having 4, they have 1. What do they need a village for? All their money is going to go on the 1. All their resources, time, energy is going to go on the 1. So that 1 can compete with everyone. Cultures decline when they start to see their neighbors as competition instead of as collaborative partners. You need to think about why you guys who only join us online won't know this. But why, when people come here, they start having children? I'm just going to say it. You're safe, okay? Here, ladies and gentlemen, you're safe. I do not see any of you as competition, okay? We are collaborating here. Here, we collaborate, okay? And you can tell we collaborate. How? Because when you leave here, you and your spouse seem to collaborate. Does this make sense? Yesterday, on our Wealth in Words call, I'm only going to say it because Mandy just smiled. On our Wealth in Words call, my wife showed up on the call. I said, hey, I'm going to see you. I'm going to see one of you tonight. I said, I'll see one of you tonight. You didn't hear me say it. Oh my gosh, she missed it. And you guys heard me say it. I said, Nana, Robbie, do any of you want to share? I said, okay, even if you don't share, I'm going to see hopefully you guys tomorrow, and I'm definitely going to see one of you tonight.
I missed that. I heard you said it before.
And then Mandy said, Mr. Dwayne Patrick, don't get any ideas. Why? You see, because, let me tell you something. Let me tell you why Mandy's saying that. Because when you hear collaboration in the atmosphere, you know it's contagious. Yo, Samuel's talking about collaborating. Oh, Mr. Man. Don't let that collaboration catch you too. You say what you want. I know who's going to have an influence. Okay? Guys, I'm sharing this because I want you guys to understand we're living in a world where there are whole nations that don't see each other as collaborators. They see each other as competitors. They're competing. That's how you got here, princess. All right? All right? Collaboration. Collaboration. All right? Okay? Guys, this is what we've got to understand. There are nations that don't see their neighbor as a collaborator. They see their neighbor as a competitor. And listen, I'm telling you, in your own house, with your own children, if you raise your children competing against each other, guess what's going to happen? Your nation's going to decline. Whereas if you teach your children to collaborate with one another, guess what's going to happen? Your nation is going to exceed itself. People are going to wonder, how can there be so many of those guys? They just keep coming out of the quote-unquote woodwork. Yes, because they are collaborative. They're collaborating. They're not bound by the color of their skin. They're not bound by the language that they started to speak at birth. They are bound by something more stronger than all of those things. They're bound by Christ. They're bound by kingdomology. Does this make sense? All right, let's go deeper because of time. We're really running with this one today. Let's go. So she now goes on her influence campaign. Wherefore, verse 10, she said unto Abraham, cast thou this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir with my son, even with Isaac. So this was about inheritance. This was about the money. This is about who was going to get the wealth after. Let's go deeper. Verse 11. And the thing was very grievous in Abraham's sight because of his son. Okay, so I want you guys to understand this. She influenced him before. And she had the impact before. He had a child. Now he's had a child with his wife. So now he's got a child with his wife and a child with his maid. Okay? Now she's changed her mind. She's saying, get rid of them. This is now, it hurts now. Because now the impact you had on me is going to hurt me to cut from that impact. Does this make sense? The impact you had on me. You made me have a child with someone. It didn't say that the issue for Abraham was Hagar. He ain't got a problem kicking the maid out. That's your maid anyway. He told her before, it's your maid. You do with her what you want to do with her. She ran away before. It didn't say Abraham ran and said, hey, where are you? Come home. He's not interested in that. He's interested in the impact. She had an impact on him. I had a child with you. This is my boy, Ishmael. You're telling me throw my son away? See, this is why we have to be mindful when we start developing our intent, because our intent will create an impact. And that impact is not going to be easy to walk away from. Does this make sense? Let's go deeper. Verse 12. And God said, okay, so who's now expressing his intent again? And God said unto Abraham, let it not be grievous in your sight And guys, I want you to understand the language, the wordplay here. I said to you, Proverbs 29:18, without a vision, the people perish. He is feeling grievous. God says to him, don't let it be grievous in your sight. Don't harbor a vision of this being painful. Why? Because if you harbor a vision of this being painful, you're going to develop intent, influence, and impact out of pain. But I'm telling you, don't let this be painful to you. Don't see this as painful. Even though what you're doing is painful. Let's go deeper. Because of the lad and because of thy bondwoman, in all that Sarah have said unto thee, hearken unto her voice, for in Isaac shall your seed be called. So he's telling him, your impact is going to come the most through Isaac. You're good, bro. You're good, bro. Listen to what she's got to say. You're good, bro. Let her influence you here because you're good. Because I'm going to deal with the impact through your son, Isaac. Are we hearing this? Let's go deeper. 13. And also of the son of the bondwoman will I make a nation, because he is your seed. So because of you, intent, influence, impact will come through him as well. Okay? Let's go deeper. 14. And Abraham rose up early in the morning. This is a sign of obedience in the Bible when you see someone rising up early. And took bread and a bottle of water and gave it unto Hagar, putting it on her shoulder and the child, and sent her away. And she departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. All right, so everybody understands the story so far, yes? All right, let's go to verse 15. Yes. And the water was spent. Okay, now please understand this. I've taught this for years. I've taught this here. There's only 3 things you can do with money, right? Does anyone remember what the 3 things you can do with money are? Okay, guys, I want you to understand, I don't make up my ideas, you know. I really don't make up my ideas. It says here, the water was spent. Not invested, okay? I've already taught you guys before, you cannot save. There's no such thing as saving, okay? So you can only waste money, you can only spend money, or you can only invest money. The water was spent. That means it was utilized for the purpose they thought it was for. Does this make sense? Yeah. Okay, watch this. Verse 15. And the water was spent in the bottle, and she cast the child under one of the shrubs. Okay, so the water's gone. So her assumption is life's gone. So she goes and throws this guy under a bush, right? Verse 16. And she went and sat her down over against him a good way off, as it were a bow shot. For she said, and this is very weird, like, guys, I don't think you guys understand yet how weird this is. Like, the language being used, and in the Hebrew is even more powerful, because it uses this term bow shot. A bow is a weapon, okay? And she is of Egyptian descent, okay? And it's saying that she is a bow shot, a weapon shot, with specifically a bow, away from the child. Why is it using that terminology? Firstly, let me tell you this. The Bible does not use this terminology with other people again. So there's a specific message it's telling us here. Okay? And we've already, what did we find out about the son in Genesis 19 when the angel was sharing God's intent? He said he's gonna be wild. He's gonna be at war. He's gonna be at war with everyone. And now we're talking about weapons. Does this make sense? Let's go deeper. There's a lot more in the Hebrew, but for the sake of time, let's go. For a bow shot, for she said, verse 16, let me not see the death of the child. And she sat over against him and lifted up her voice and wept. Okay? So again, we're talking about death here, right? So you can see she does not think with a mentality around peace. She thinks with a mentality around war. Now, why is this important? Because she's an Egyptian. So we are being given by the Bible a glimpse into the world view of the Egyptians here. Does this make sense? And for those of you following us, this is not necessarily the modern day Egyptian, okay? Just so you know, right? Before I have Egyptians in the comments like, hey, you don't like Egyptians. No, I didn't say that. I'm just reading the Bible, okay? All right? So that's 16. Let's go into 17, right? So she puts him under a bush. She goes a weapons discharge away, and she goes and starts whiling and screaming, saying, oh, I don't want to see him die, right? Now watch this, verse 17. And God heard the voice of, now isn't that interesting? Who's screaming? But who's getting heard? Just think up, guys, why is this important? Because sometimes we follow those loud voices. We let those loud voices influence us instead of realizing God is not influenced by those loud voices. God is influenced by the assigned voices. Does that make sense? There's more to this because we haven't read what I want to read yet, but I just want you to see that. Okay? Verse 17. And God heard the voice of the lad, and the angel of God called to Hagar out of heaven and said unto her, what aileth thee, Hagar? Now, what's interesting here is the angel is talking to her, even though the angel heard him. Does that make sense? Because sometimes we don't want to pray because we think, well, the only way this is going to be solved is if someone else has to fix it. But we don't realize God is in that business. God is in the business of talking to other people on your behalf if you are willing to engage. Does that make sense? Okay, let's go deeper. So he says unto her, Hagar, what aileth thee? He then says, fear not, don't be afraid, for God hath heard the voice of the lad where he is. 18, arise, stand up, lift up the lad, and hold him in your hand. Now, why do you think God is telling her to hold him in her hand? Why do you think God is telling her to hold the boy in her hand? Go on, you can read it if you want.
For I will make him a great nation. The next part after that.
You could read as much as you want. What are you saying?
Maybe because she needed to be, maybe like spiritually in alignment. So she had to physically move him so that they were both in alignment with what was going to be spoken over next.
Okay. Anyone else? Agreement. Comfort. Okay. I'm thinking that, okay, if you went to Harrods tomorrow and you said to Harrods, you want to take something from the shop, and they said, okay, what is this? A purchase or an exchange? Or like, what is this? There's only two things it can really be, right? A purchase or an exchange, right? You're trying to walk out of the store with something, you're either purchasing it or you're exchanging it or you're stealing, right? And obviously we're not talking about stealing. So if you're purchasing it, what do you need in your hand? No. If you're purchasing it, you need your collateral in your hand. That could be in the form of money, that could be gift vouchers, that could be Amazon. Like, we can't just say money, it's collateral. Your collateral needs to be in your hand. The thing that you're going to exchange for what you're getting needs to be in your hand if you're purchasing, right? Okay, if you're exchanging, what do you need in your hand? No. Reginald said it. Sister Christina said it. You need the receipt. I don't need the item I'm going to take out of here. You guys will go and get the item for me if need be. But I need the proof that I can exchange. So again, it's my collateral. What God is showing us is you're an Egyptian, bro. You don't have no covenant here. You ain't got no access. There's no promise on you. And I told you in chapter 16, the promise is on him. Go pick up your receipt. What's wrong with you? Go hold your collateral. You put your collateral over there and you ran away from it. And you went to start screaming and wilding out. Go hold your credit card. Go pick up your cash. See, we don't understand the power of proximity. We think, oh, we recognize something's valuable and then we go stay over there. You know what happened in the book of Acts when they recognized there was value? They all started going to each other's houses. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. They all started activating proximity power. Can you ask Daniel to come in and sit down, please, if he doesn't know how to control himself? Woo! Slight baby domestic. All right, cool. Judah, put it back, please. Good boy. Go and sit down. Okay. All right, he's up. All right, so this is what God is saying to her. God is saying, go pick up your collateral. How can you put your collateral down and think you're going to be able to bargain? Who are you bargaining with? Who are you exchanging with? Who are you going to think you're going to, how are you going to make things happen without your value? The very thing you need in order to change your life, you've just gone and hidden. The very thing that's going to be of value to you in the marketplace, you've gone and hidden. The very thing you should be getting closer to, you run away from. And you're going to think that life is going to start opening up portals for you. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Let's jump back in. Daniel, take your feet off that. Stop, please. Okay? All right. And verse 18 again. Arise, lift up the lad and hold him in your hand, for I will make him a great nation. Listen to the words. He doesn't say, I'm going to make you a great nation. I'm going to make him a great nation. So what would it be smart for you to do? Anybody? A bit louder, bro. Attach yourself to him. You've just got kicked out of the best thing you had. The Abraham dynasty. But you're okay because there's another dynasty. But you're about to go and hide that. Like, let me tell you something, right? If you guys haven't realized this. She could have cried until she died. Because of the promise, that boy would not have died. I don't know if you understand that. She could have been wilding out as long as she wanted. She would have died there. That boy, it would be impossible for him to die there. Why? Someone greater than humanity had an intent for that boy. Someone greater than humanity had spoken his influence in verse 9, in chapter 19, we read in chapter 16, as we read earlier, over that boy. So it was guaranteed that boy was going to have an impact. It wasn't guaranteed she was going to have an impact. It wasn't guaranteed she was going to have an impact. So the best thing she could have done was attach herself to the great nation that God had promised her was going to come through this young man. Let's go deeper. This world is so interesting. Verse 19. And God opened her eyes. Okay? Now, I'm going to tell you something. There's a reason why God opened her eyes when she had in her hand her collateral. Because now there's a reason to open her eyes. There wasn't a reason to show her the resources right in front of her. I tell people all the time, my name's Mrs ICanWin. I help people create consistent and colossal cash flow using resources and revenues hidden in plain sight. Here's the thing that's interesting. Why do you need to see what's in front of you in plain sight if you're not going to use it? You don't. So why would God give you a coach who can show you what's right in front of you if you don't know whether you're willing to use it? He won't. Does that make sense? The reason why she hadn't had her eyes open prior is because she didn't have her attachment to her value. Her eyes needed to be open because the promise is on him. The promise isn't on her. She hasn't got no promise to be a great nation. He's got the promise to be a great nation. And it was spoken in chapter 16. She should have known from chapter 16, I've just got to stay close to this boy. I've just got to take care of this boy. I've got to make sure this boy has everything he needs in order to succeed because this boy is going places. I'm going to say this. The Bible tells us something in the book of Proverbs very profound. It tells us that pride comes before a fall. Why does it tell us that? Because humility comes before honor. What is humility? Humility, one definition, is strength unrestrained, or strength that is restrained. Sorry, that's one definition. Strength that is restrained. Let me tell you a gift I have seen God give people that people disrespect so much. And I've seen this is actually the gift God uses to elevate most people. It's the gift of seeing other people's greatness. There is a gift that God has given so many people that I watch people regularly disrespect. And that gift is the gift that when you look scripturally, is the key gift God uses again and again to elevate people. Okay, Joseph went through a whole bunch of things. Where did Joseph end up? In the palace. End up, okay? He ended up in the palace, okay? Who was his invitation into the palace? Nope. Someone he met in a prison. So what gift did Joseph had to really use to get out of the prison to get into the palace? The gift of seeing someone else's greatness. We look at, oh, he interpreted the dream. No, he had to see someone in the same pit that he was in, a prison, and say, you are worth enough value for me to tell you what your dream means. You are worth enough value, even though we're both in a prison right now, for me to tell you what your dream actually means. I'm not going to just keep your dream to myself because you're worth it. You're worth it for me to tell you you are going to be reappointed, and God is going to cause it so that the Pharaoh is going to have you doing your job again. You're going to be out of here, bro. You're going to be out of here. I can see that in you. I can see that for you. You see, the gift Joseph had to have was the gift of recognizing it was worth distributing his gift to someone else. He had to see the value in those other people enough to say, I'll give you my gift. I'll give you my gift. I'll use my gift for you. And because he did that, guess what happened? 2 years after that person was reinstated in the palace, they remembered him. They created a door for him. The Pharaoh did not invite, if you think about it, the Pharaoh didn't invite Joseph to his palace. Why? The Pharaoh didn't know there was a Joseph. The Pharaoh didn't know someone could interpret his dream. It was someone who Joseph went out of his way to give them his value before they were in the palace, whilst they were still in a prison, that allowed Joseph to enter the palace. This is like, this, you see, this is why Proverbs, the Bible is trying to give us the cheat code. It's telling you pride comes before a fall. So that when you're in a prison and all you can think about is a prison, like last month in the session, we were talking about Rachel having her son and calling her son the son of pain, and her husband saying, no, he's not going to be called the son of pain. He's going to be called the son of gain. He changed his name to Benjamin, which means son of my right hand. Why did he change his name? He changed his name because he was not focused on the pain. He was focused on the gain. This is like Joseph being in prison and saying, I'm in prison, but I'm not going to focus on the pain of being in prison. And when people ask me, listen, I had a dream last night, and I know the interpretation of the dream, and I just keep it to myself because of my pain of being here. But instead, I recognize gain. I'm going to tell you what your dream means. Your dream means this. Your dream means this. And when these people are reinstated, reappointed, they now create a door for Joseph to get the truth of his anointing. I'm not supposed to be in a prison. I'm not supposed to be in a prison. Mandy, you asked a question yesterday in Wealth in Words. You said, Brother Samuel, do you like not sell to people because of the fact that you got so much money that you don't need to? And I said to you, I said, no, it's not because of that. I said, it's got nothing to do with that. Like, everybody wants more money, right? Let me help you understand this. Elon Musk is one of the richest people in the world. Is that correct? Does Elon Musk want more money? So for the rest of all of our lives, guess what we can do now? Never have to ask another person, do you want more money? Like, that's the ultimate cheat code. If the person who has the most money on the planet wants more money, you don't ever have to ask anyone else if they want more money. Okay, let's do it here to really solidify this so at least everyone here is happy, right? Is there anyone in this room who would object to having more money? No. Okay. Is there anyone in this room who would like some more money? Yes. Okay, so it's solved, right? It's solved. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's not about money. It's not about money. Everybody wants more money. It's not about money. It's about intent. It's about influence, and it's about impact. Some people do what they believe is right to do because they have intended that that's what they're going to do. It doesn't matter about the income, it matters about the impact. Does this make sense? All right, let's wrap this up. Verse 19, and God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water, and she went and filled the bottle with water and gave the lad drink. Someone's going to catch this. You see, what did she do after she filled up the bottle? Thank you, Sister Christina. It didn't say she filled up the bottle and she drank. I don't know if you're getting this. She realized this guy's my collateral. I've got to take care of him more than I take care of. This is why this world is messed up right now. Because people are spending more time thinking of themselves because of competition instead of thinking of someone else because of collaboration. Does this make sense? When she realized the boy was not her competition, the boy was her forced collaboration. When she got her eyes opened and she could fill the bottle of water, she gave him to drink first. Does this make sense? We're just going to wrap up there. This is good. All right, so guys, with that being said, there was a lot more I wanted to go through, but I just feel like maybe it's because we've had a couple months not being in person. It's good to just, you know, squeeze the berries into the cup. Hopefully you guys have got some stuff in your cup. All right, with that being said, I'm going to close in prayer. We're going to open up for questions, comments, key takeaways. For those of you joining us live on the YouTube, if you have questions, if you have comments, if you have key takeaways, feel free to let us know inside of the chat what questions, comments, or key takeaways you have, and we can also answer them maybe in this session right now, or definitely in one of the upcoming sessions, or definitely in the comments. All right, Heavenly Father, we just want to say thank you that you are willing to develop our intent so that we're not living with temporal intent, but we're literally living with eternal intent. I thank you, Father God, that you're interested in utilizing us to develop and build influence, Father God, so that ultimately your impact can be seen on this earth. You said in your word in Matthew chapter 6 that the goal is your kingdom to come, your will to be done on earth as it is in heaven. So, Father God, I just pray, Lord, from the words being shared today, from the hearts being open and receptive today, that you will have your way. I pray, Lord Jesus, that you continue to empower us, encourage us, and strengthen us so that we will be more effective in our walk with you, that walk of collaboration, and we will forsake the ways of competition which you've not ordained for us to walk in. We ask all these things in the matchless and mighty name of Yeshua, the Lord Jesus Christ, I pray. Amen, amen, and amen. All right, good stuff, guys. We're going to open it up. What questions do you have? Reginald's hand is right up. What we're going to do, let me get the mic over to you, and then we will take your questions. Madam Speaker. Oh, sorry. No, I definitely ain't seen the video. Hold on. All right. We good. All right, for those of you on YouTube, now is the time. Feel free to send your questions, comments, key takeaways in so we can answer those, because we going to be out without a doubt in a moment or two. All right, let's go. Okay, this looks good. All right, over to you, Reginald, for your question, key takeaway, and comment.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Brother Samuel, for today's session.
Amen. We thank God. Yes, Prince.
Where to begin? In the beginning, let's start there.
Genesis 1:1.
Okay, cool. I'll just share a few key takeaways. You started with paving the way, and I just kind of paraphrased it in my own language, that the first one takes the licks. And I saw a visual of someone like foraging through a forest with like a machete, just cutting through, because you know when you're in a bush, there's no path, but somebody has to make
the path. That's
it's
powerful.
just like bush, and that's what I thought about. And
but it's just like bush.
Yeah, bush. Like bush. And the question you asked is, are you willing to do the work even when you don't get to see like the physical manifestation of it in your lifetime? And like living from that place is a totally different. Yeah, it's just a totally different mindset. It's a totally different belief that you have to operate with in order to actually make decisions that's based on that. And then Robbie said something during the session, and it made me think, when we were talking about the inheritance, Sarah desiring for Isaac to have the inheritance, I think Robbie mentioned something like, because they were rich in cattle, silver, gold. And I thought, they were wealthy people, so they would have had an understanding of inheritance and passing it on to the next generation to ensure that it's not lost. And also towards the end there, as you mentioned, Hagar leaving her son in the bush, I thought about it again from a human perspective. She's in the palace chilling with these guys that have got all the cattle, the silver and gold. This child now is the reason why I've now been kicked out of this palace. So she could be blaming Ishmael as the reason why, if not for you, I would still be drinking soup and stew in this place. Now I'm in the desert, it's dry, I'm thirsty, and you're just there making noise. Go away in the bush, I'm coming. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, obviously, yeah, I don't know. That's inferred there. I'm not saying that's what it was. But yeah, so to my question, there's more key takeaways, so I'll just get to it because there's other people to speak. Earlier this week, I was speaking to my friend and we were having a conversation, and I was basically the whole topic was, how do you create a movement that's so powerful that it doesn't die when the leader of the movement dies? And I was going through the thought process of thinking about, like, I don't know, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, whatever the
How do you create a movement that is so powerful that it doesn't die when the creator of the movement dies?
When the leader dies. And I was thinking, because it's like, obviously we were talking about leadership, and the whole like flow of the conversation was, as a leader, naturally, if you're a good leader, you have followers. But then what happens, a really, really good leader creates other leaders. But what we tend to see happen is that when a leader, a person with an intent and influence and is creating impact that isn't aligned with maybe what the government may like or whatever it may be, if they can access the leader and wipe them out, they often kill the movement. And it's like, in order to be a leader of a movement, you need influence. But then in that influence, you create a lot of followers. But then when you go, you don't want the followers to just be followers. You need them to also be leaders that can carry the movement without you being there. But then it's like this like circle, because you need to be influenced, you need to be respected and whatever for the thing to happen. And then what my friend said was like, yeah, but when you think about it, he said it's about like the words. And I said, yeah, documenting. And then we landed on like the Bible. And we thought about political parties, how each political party, doesn't matter if it's Ed Miliband, it doesn't matter if it's Jeremy Corbyn, it doesn't matter who the person is, the movement and that party remains the same, regardless of who the leader elected is. And then I thought, yo, Jesus was literally, like, Christianity is the, again, I said to him, like, it's different because that's like, to me, that's true. So, yeah, I'm not counting it in the same way as like, them beheading a leader or something else, another group. But yeah, it was just like, how do you create that movement? And where we landed on in that conversation was that it's in the documentation. It's in like, and then everybody following in business terms how you say the SOP, the standard operating practices. And yeah, this really connected to that, even from the first question of what does the name Clinton Bush Miliband, like they are all people, families, entities that have got that documentation that goes from generation to generation regardless. So yeah, that's my question. How do you create a movement where if the leader dies, it doesn't?
So the thing you've said is one of the things. That's like, you've used the term documentation. What you're actually doing is called codifying. So codifying is a term. So some people call it an educational term. It might be an educational term, but it's just a word which basically means taking things that are happening and turning them into a set of practices, or turning them into a set of rules, or turning them into a formula. It's formalizing what looks like a generalistic ideology. Does that make sense? So if we all say we believe stuff, the question is, what do you actually believe? How would you present that in a set of words, right? So you mentioned the Labour Party or these political parties, they all have what we call a constitution. So their constitution is the codifying of their beliefs, yeah, or the codifying of their stance. Does that make sense? So if your family has a constitution, like a family constitution, that could be used to codify. Some businesses have Obviously, they have business plans, but then they go on to have the mission statements, manifestos. So mission statements and manifestos are codified documents which are explaining the ideologies a lot of the time, the psychology sometimes, right? But codification is just one aspect of it, okay? The real way, the real answer to your question, how do you create a movement that lives beyond you, is through means of two things, and that's culture and curriculum. The curriculum is the actual codification in 4 dimensions. But there are, like, let me say it like this. When you use Jesus, so I'm going to use the examples you use so that this is very clear for you, and hopefully it makes it clear for everyone. In the time Jesus lived, there was no book of Matthew. There was no book of Luke. So documentation cannot be what creates the movement beyond a lifetime. Do you get what I'm saying? Because Jesus' movement worked even though the documents weren't there. Do you get what I'm saying? This is firstly why I moved away from the word documentation, to help you see it's not the documentation, it's the codification. It's understanding, what did we discover with this man for 3 years? What did we actually discover? Because if we understand what we discovered, like actually what happened in the Bible, 20 years after he died, 10 years after he died, 100 years after he died, we can now write down what we discovered because we actually understood the codification was clear, even if there was no documentation. Does that make sense? So codification is essentially the key. When codification is lived out and spelled out in a way that we can take it around, that becomes a curriculum. So curriculum and culture are actually the ways that you live past someone's lifetime. So I'll give you a few hacks, right? I'll give you one example and one hack. I think this will. The example is, let's go political, because we've been talking about politics, right? So in this country, how do we get a prime minister? Okay, you use the keyword, democracy, election, right? In America, how do they get a president? So I'm gonna strip it back, right? They have a president, we have a prime minister. But culturally, how are both prime minister and president, two different things, how are they elected? Yeah, so Reginald said it a moment ago, Robbie said it now. Democratically, through democracy. So what you may not see is, although they have a president and they have no king, and although here we have king, queen, monarchy, and prime minister, the culture of how both are appointed is exactly the same, even though the lands are completely different. So why is that? That's because a dead man, in the form of Socrates, codified the ideology of democracy. Does that make sense? So the culture of Socrates is what's actually running America and England right now. Even though he was not English or American. Does that make sense? So it's not about the documentation as much as it is about the codification. And then after the codification, it's about how that codification shows up in culture and in curriculum. Now, that was my example. Now I'm going to give you the second example to help you, right? Or that was my little bonus. Now I'll give you the second example, right? Guys on YouTube, we love you. We'll see you next time.